All right, it is Tuesday, and today I want to ask you, well, I guess it's more of telling you, it's Taco About It Tuesday. So what would you order at a Mexican restaurant? I asked Mr. G this morning, and he said he would order nachos. So what would you order? Would you order nachos? All right, we started from the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler yesterday, and the book starts with a letter. And it is a letter from Mrs. Frankweiler to her lawyer. And she said that they did not have a very pleasant meeting the last time they met and that he seemed very distracted, but that she was going to be sending him a story to read and that she wanted to change her will. And that's all we know about that so far. We didn't learn anything else. But then we get introduced to Claudia, which is the girl that is going to run away, and we learn that she feels very mistreated. She has 3 little brothers, and she feels like the little brothers are favored by her parents more than she is. She feels like they get away with a little bit more than her, and that her parents expect more from her than they do her brothers. So, sorry, my camera fell again. Okay, so Claudia comes up with this plan that she is going to run away, but she doesn't want to run away to somewhere outdoorsy or someplace that she doesn't know. She wants to go somewhere nice that, she'll be able to not be in the elements, if you will. So she decides that she is going to run away to the New York City Metropolitan Museum of Art. And she wants to take her little brother Jamie with her. But there's a reason she wants to take little brother Jamie, and that is because he always saves his allowance. He never spends it. So he has more money than any of the other kids. And she finds out later on in the chapter, like towards the end, that he has $24, which this is set in a different time period. So it's not necessarily our time period where $24 isn't really a lot. This would be a long time ago, where $24 is quite a bit of money, because they said it was only $1.60 to ride the train both ways. Like, so to New York City and back, it would only cost $1.60, and that would definitely cost more now. So that was one sign that this was a long time ago. Anywho, so she's going to take little brother Jamie with her. She tells him, I'm picking you because you can keep it in wraps. Like you can keep your mouth shut. You're not going to tell our other siblings. You're not going to tell our parents. You are going to go on this adventure with me. She doesn't necessarily tell him that they're running away, that it's more of an adventure together. Okay. So that is summed up of chapter 1. So I know we'll get chapter 2 in, but we'll see on the time if we can get any more. All right, so here is chapter 2. On Tuesday night, Jamie found his list of instructions under his pillow pinned to his pajamas. His first instruction was to forget his homework. Get ready for the trip instead. I wholeheartedly admire Claudia's thoroughness. Her concern for delicate details is as well developed as mine. Her note to Jamie even included a suggestion for hiding his trumpet when he took it out of its case. He was to roll it up in an extra blanket, which he always has placed at the foot of his bed. I forgot to mention when I was reviewing this that this is written from Mrs. Frankweiler's perspective. So it is Mrs. Frankweiler who is the narrator of the story. So she's the one telling the story. After he had followed all the instructions on the list, Jamie took a big glass of water from the bathroom and sat cross-legged on the bed. He bit off a large corner of the list. The paper tasted like the bubble gum he had once saved and chewed it for 5 days. It was just as tasteless and only slightly harder. Since the ink was not waterproof, it turned his teeth blue. He tried only one more bite before he tore up the note, crumpled up the pieces, and threw them into the trash. Then he brushed his teeth. The next morning, Claudia and Jamie boarded the school bus as usual, according to plan. They sat together in the back and continued sitting there when they arrived at school, and everyone got out of the bus. No one was supposed to notice this, and no one did. There was so much jostling and searching for homework papers and mittens that no one paid any attention to anything except personal possessions until they were well up the walk to school. Claudia had instructed Jamie to pull his feet up and crouch his head so that Herbert, the driver, couldn't see him. He did, and she did the same. If they were spotted, the plan was to go to school and fake out their schedules as best they could, having neither books in their bag nor musical instruments in their cases. They lay over their book bags and over their trumpet and violin cases. Each held his breath for a long time, and each resisted at least 4 temptations to peek up and see what was going on. Claudia pretended that she was blind and had to depend on her senses of hearing and touch and smell. When they heard the last of the feet going down the steps and the motor start again, they lifted their chins slightly and smiled at each other. Herbert would now take the bus to the lot on Boston Post Road, where the school bus is parked. Then he would get out of the bus and get into his car and go wherever else it is that he goes. James and Claudia practiced silence all the way during the ragged ride to the parking lot. The bus bounced along like an empty cracker box on wheels, almost empty. Fortunately, the bumps made it noisy. Otherwise, Claudia would have worried for fear the driver could hear her heart, for it sounded to her like there was an electric percolator brewing the morning's coffee. She didn't like keeping her head down so long. Perspiration was causing her cheek to stick to the plastic seat, and she was convinced that she would develop a medium-serious skin disease within 5 minutes after she got off the bus. The bus came to a stop. They heard the door open, just a few backward steps by Herbert, and then they would be discovered. They held their breath until they heard him walk down the steps and out of the bus. Then they heard the door close, and after he got out, Herbert reached in from a small side window to operate the lever that closed the door. Claudia slowly pulled her arm in front of her and glanced at her watch. She would give Herbert 7 minutes before she would lift her head. When the time was up, both of them knew that they could get up, and both wanted to see if they could hold out a little bit longer, and they did. They stayed crouched down for about 45 more seconds, but being cramped and uncomfortable, it seemed like 45 more minutes. When they got up, both were grinning. They peeked out of the window of the bus and they saw the coast was clear. There was no need to hurry, so they slowly made their way up to the front, Claudia leading. The door lever was left of the driver's seat, and as she walked towards it, she heard an awful racket behind her. "Jamie," she whispered, "what's that racket?" Jamie stopped, and so did the noise. "What racket?" he demanded. "You," she said. "You are the racket. What in the world are you wearing? Chainmail?" "I'm wearing my usual. Starting from the bottom, I have BVD briefs, size 10. 1 t-shirt. Oh, for goodness sake, I know all that. What are you wearing that makes so much noise?" $24.43. Claudia saw then that his pockets were so heavy that they were pulling his pants down. There was a gap of 1.5 inches between the bottom hem of his shirt and the top of his pants. A line of winter white skin was punctuated by his navel. "How come all your money is in change? It rattles." "Well, Bruce pays off in pennies and nickels. What did you expect him to pay me in traveler's checks?" Okay, Claudia said. "What's that hanging from your belt?" "My compass. I got it for my birthday last year." "Why did you bother bringing that? You're carrying enough weight around already. You need a compass to find your way out of the woods." "Everyone uses a compass for that." "What woods?" Claudia asked. "The woods we'll be hiding out in," Jamie answered. "Hiding out in. What kind of language is that?" "English language, that's what kind." "Who ever told you that we were going to hide out in the woods?" Claudia demanded. "There, you said it, Jamie shrieked. "Said what?" "I never said we're going to hide out in the woods." Now Claudia was yelling too. "No, you said hide out in." "I did not." Jamie exploded. "You did too. You said, who ever told you that we were going to hide out in the woods? You said that." Okay, Claudia replied. She was trying hard to remain calm, for she knew that a group leader must never lose control of herself, even if the group she leads consists of only herself and one brother brat. "Okay," she repeated. "I may have said hide out in, but I didn't say the woods." "Yes, sir, you did. Whoever told you that?" Claudia didn't give him a chance to finish. I know. Now, let's begin by saying that we are going to hide out in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City." Jamie said, See, you said it again." "I did not. I said the Metropolitan Museum of Art." "You said hide out in again." "All right, let's forget the English language lessons. We are going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan." For the first time, the meaning, instead of the grammar of what Claudia had said, penetrated. "The Metropolitan Museum of Art? Baloney!" he exclaimed. "What kind of crazy idea is that?" Claudia now felt that she had control of herself and Jamie and the situation. For the past few minutes, they had forgotten that they were stowaways on the school bus and had behaved as they always did at home. She said, "Let's get off this bus and on the train and I'll tell you about it." Once again, James Kincaid felt cheated. "The train? Can't we even hitchhike to New York?" "Hitchhike and take the chances of getting kidnapped or robbed? Or we could even get mugged," Claudia replied. Okay, here is a picture of them. "Robbed? Why are you worried about that? It's mostly my money," Jamie told her. "We're in this together. It's mostly your money we're using, but it's all my idea we're using. We'll take the train." "Of all the sissy ways to run away, and of all the sissy places to run away to," Jamie mumbled. He didn't mumble quite softly enough, and Claudia turned on him. "Run away to? How can you run away and to? And what kind of language is that?" Claudia asked. "The American language," Jamie answered. "American James Kincadian language," and they both left the bus forgetting caution and remembering only their quarrel. Luckily, they were not discovered. On the way to the train station, Claudia mailed 2 letters. "What were those?" Jamie asked. "One was a note to Mom and Dad to tell them that we were leaving home and not to call the FBI. They'll get it tomorrow or the day after." "And the others?" "The other was 2 box tops from Corn Flakes. They send you 25 cents if you mail them 2 box tops with stars on the tops. For milk money," it said. "Well, you should have sent that in before. We could use 25 cents more." "We just finished eating the 2nd box of cornflakes this morning," Claudia informed him. They arrived at the Greenwich station in time to catch the 10:42 local. The train was not filled with either commuters or lady shoppers, so Claudia walked up the aisles of one car and then another until she found a pair of chairs that dissatisfied her the least with regard to the amount of dust and lint on the blue velvet mohair covers. Jamie spent 7 of the 28.5 railroad miles trying to convince his sister that they should try hiding in Central Park. Claudia appointed him treasurer. He would not only hold all the money, he'd also keep track of it and pass a judgment on all expenditures. Then Jamie began to feel that the Metropolitan offered several advantages and would provide adventure enough. And in the course of those miles, Claudia stopped regretting bringing Jamie along. In fact, when they emerged from the train at Grand Central into the underworld of cement and steel that leads to the terminal, Claudia felt that having Jamie there was important. Ah, how well I know those feelings of hot and hollow that come from the dimly lit concrete ramp. And his money and radio were not the only reasons. Manhattan called for the courage of at least 2 Kincaids. Chapter 3. As soon as they reached the sidewalk, Jamie made his first decision as treasurer. "We'll walk from here to the museum." "Walk?" Claudia asked. "Do you realize that it's over 40 blocks from here?" "Well, how much does the bus cost?" "The bus!" Claudia exclaimed. "Who said anything about taking a bus? I want to take a taxi." "Claudia," Jamie said, "you are quietly out of your mind. How can you even think of a taxi? We have no more allowance, no more income. You can't be extravagant any longer. It's not my money we're spending, it's our money. We're in this together, remember?" "You're right," Claudia answered. "A taxi is expensive. The bus is cheaper. It's only 20 cents each. We'll take the bus." "Only 20 cents each? That's 40 cents total." "No bus. We'll walk." "We'll wear out 40 cents worth of shoe leather," Claudia mumbled. You're sure we have to walk?" "I'm positive," Jamie answered. "Which way do we go?" "Well, since you won't change your mind." The look on Jamie's face gave her the answer. She sighed. No wonder Jamie had more than $24. He was a gambler and a cheapskate. If that's the way he wants to be, she thought, I'll never again ask him for bus fare. I'll suffer and never, never let him know about it. But he'll regret it when I simply collapse from exhaustion. I'll collapse quietly. "We'd be better to walk up Madison Avenue," she told her brother. "I'll see way too many ways to spend our precious money if we walk on 5th Avenue. All those gorgeous stores." She and Jamie did not walk exactly side by side. Her violin case kept bumping him, and he began to walk a few steps ahead of her. As Claudia's pace slowed down from what she was sure was an accumulation of carbon dioxide in her system, she had not yet learned about muscle fatigue in science class, even though she was in the 6th grade honors class. Jamie's pace quickened. Soon, he was walking a block and a half ahead of her. They would meet when a red light held him up. At one of these mutual stops, Claudia instructed Jamie to wait for her on the corner of Madison Avenue and 80th Street. For there, they would turn left to 5th Avenue. She found Jamie standing on the corner, probably one of the most civilized street corners in the whole world, consulting a compass and announcing that he would then turn left, and then they would be headed due northwest. Claudia was tired and cold at the tips. Her fingers, her toes, her nose were all cold, while the rest of her was perspiring under the weight of her winter clothes. She never liked feeling either very hot or very cold, and she hated feeling both at the same time. Head due northwest, head due northwest, she mimicked. Can you simply say turn right or turn left as everyone else does? Who do you think you are, Daniel Boone? I bet no one used a compass in Manhattan since Henry Hudson. Jamie didn't answer. He briskly rounded the corner at 80th Street and made his hand into his sun visor as he peered down the street. Claudia needed an argument. Her internal heat, the heat of anger, was cooking out. Oh my goodness, I lost my spot. Sorry. Her internal heat, the heat of anger, was cooking that accumulated carbon dioxide. It would soon explode out of her if she didn't give it some vent. Don't you realize that we must try to be inconspicuous? She demanded of her brother. What's inconspicuous? Unnoticeable. Jamie looked all around. I think you're brilliant, Claude. New York is a great place to hide out. No one notices no one. Anyone, Claudia corrected. She looked at Jamie and found him smiling. She softened. She had to agree with her brother. She was brilliant. New York was a great place, and being called brilliant had cooled her down. The bubbles dissolved. By the time they reached the museum, she no longer needed an argument. As they entered the main door on Fifth Avenue, the guard clicked off 2 numbers of his people counter. Guards always count the people going in and out of the museum, but they don't count them going out. My chauffeur, Sheldon, has a friend named Morris who is a guard at the Metropolitan. I've kept Sheldon busy getting information from Morris. It's not hard to do since Morris loves to talk about his work. He'll tell me about anything except security. Ask him a question, he won't or can't answer, and he'll say, I'm not at liberty to tell. Security. Excuse me. By the time Claudia and Jamie reached their destination, it was 1 o'clock, and the museum was busy. On any ordinary Wednesday, over 26,000 people come. They spread out over the 20 acres of floor space. They roam from room to room to room to room. On Wednesday come the gentle old ladies who are using the time before the Broadway matinee begins. They walk around in pairs, and you can tell that they are set because they're wearing matching pairs of orthopedic shoes, the kind that lace on the side. Tourists visit the museum on Wednesdays. You can tell them because the men carry cameras and the women look as if their feet hurt. They wear high-heeled shoes. I always say that those who wear them deserve them. And there are art students any day of the week. They also walk around in pairs, and you can tell that they are a set because they're wearing matching black sketchbooks. Or carrying matching black sketchbooks. You've missed all this, Saxonburg. Shame on you. You never set your well-polished shoe inside that museum. More than 250,000 people came to that museum every week. They come from Mankato, Kansas, where they have no museums, and from Paris, France, where they have lots. And they all enter free of charge because that's what the museum is. Great and large and wonderful and free to all. And complicated. Complicated enough for even Jamie Kincaid. No one thought it was strange that a boy and a girl, each carrying a book bag and an instrument case, and who would normally be in school, were visiting a museum. After all, about 1,000 school children visit the museum every day. The guard at the entrance merely stopped them and told them to check their cases and book bags. A museum rule. No bags, food, or umbrellas. None of the guards can see. Rule or no rule, Claudia decided it was a good idea. A big sign in the checking room said, no tipping, and she knew that Jamie couldn't object. Jamie did object, however. He pulled his sister aside and asked her how she expected him to change into his pajamas. His pajamas, he explained, were rolled into a tiny ball in the trumpet case. Claudia told him that she fully expected to check out at 4:30. They would leave the museum by the front door, and within 5 minutes they would re-enter from the back, through the door that leads from the parking lot to the Children's Museum. After all, didn't that solve their problems? 1, they would be seen leaving the museum. 2, they would be free of their baggage while they scouted around for a place to spend the night. And 3, it was free. Claudia checked her coat as well as her packages. Jamie was condemned to walking around in his ski jacket. When the jacket was on and zippered, it covered up the exposed strip of skin. Besides, the Orland plush lining did a great deal to muffle his $24 rattle. Claudia would never have permitted herself to become so overheated, but Jamie liked perspiration, a little bit of dirt, and complications. Right now, however, he wanted lunch. Claudia wished to eat in the restaurant on the main floor, but Jamie wished to eat in the snack bar downstairs. He thought it would be less glamorous, but cheaper. And as Chancellor of the Exchequer, I think I said that right. A holder of the veto power, and as tightwad of the year, he got his wish. Claudia didn't really mind too much when she saw the snack bar. It was plain, but clean. James was dismayed at the prices. They had $28.61 when they went in the cafeteria and only $27.11 when they came out, still feeling hungry. Claudia, he demanded, did you know food would cost so much? Now aren't you glad that we didn't take a bus? Claudia was no such thing. She was not glad that they hadn't taken the bus. She was merely furious that her parents, and Jamie's too, had been so stingy, and that she had been away from home for less than one whole day, and she was already worried about survival money. She chose not to answer Jamie. Jamie didn't notice he was completely wrapped up in problems of finance. Do you think I could get one of the guards to play me a game of war? He asked. Well, that's ridiculous, Claudia said. Why, I brought my cards along, a whole deck. Claudia said, inconspicuous is the exact opposite of that. Even a guard at the Metropolitan who sees thousands of people every day would remember a boy who played him a game of cards. Jamie's pride was involved. I cheated Bruce through all second grade and through all third grade so far, and he still isn't wise. Jamie, is that how you knew you'd win? Jamie bowed his head and answered, oh, yeah. Besides, Bruce has trouble keeping straight the jacks, kings, and queens. He gets mixed up. Why do you cheat your best friend? Well, I sure don't know. I guess I like complications. Well, quit worrying about money now. Worry about where we're going to hide while they're locking up this place. They took a map from the information stand for free. Claudia selected where they would hide during that dangerous time immediately after the museum was closed to the public and before all the guards and helpers left. She decided that she would go to the ladies' room and Jamie would go to the men's room. And just before the museum closed, go to the one near the restaurant on the main floor, she told Jamie. I'm not spending a night in a men's room. All that tile, it's cold, and besides, men's rooms make noises sound louder, and I rattle enough. Claudia explained to Jamie that he was to enter a booth in the men's room and then stand on it, she continued. Stand on it? Stand on what? Jamie demanded. You know, Claudia insisted, stand on it. You mean stand on the toilet? Jamie needed everything spelled out. Well, what else would I mean? What else is there in a booth in the men's room? And keep your head down and keep the door to the booth very slightly open, Claudia finished. Feet up, head down, door open. Why? Because I'm certain that when they check the ladies' room and the men's room, they peek under the door and check only to see if there are feet. We must stay there until we're sure all the people and guards have gone home. Well, how about the night watchman? Jamie asked. Claudia displayed a lot more confidence than she really felt. Oh, there'll be night watchmen, I'm sure, but he mostly walks around in the roof trying to keep people from breaking in. We'll already be in. They call what he calls a catwalk. We'll learn his habits soon enough. They must mostly use burglar alarms on the inside. We'll just never touch a window or a door or a valuable painting. Now, let's find a place to spend the night. They wandered back to the rooms of fine French and English furniture. It was here Claudia knew for sure that she had chosen the most elegant place in the whole world to hide. She wanted to sit on the large lounge chair that had been made from Marie Antoinette, or at least sit at her writing table. But signs everywhere said not to step on the platform, and some of the chairs had silken ropes strung across the arms to keep you from even trying to sit down. She would have to wait until after lights out to be Maria Antoinette. At last, she found a bed that she considered perfectly wonderful, and she told Jamie that they would spend the night there. The bed had a tall canopy, and there is a picture of it. Supported by an ornately carved headboard at one end and by two gigantic posts at the other. I'm familiar with that bed, Saxonburg. It is as enormous and fussy as mine, and it dates from the 16th century, like mine. I once considered donating my bed to the museum, but Mr. Untermeyer gave them this one first. I was somewhat relieved when he did. Now I can enjoy my bed without feeling guilty because the museum doesn't have one. Besides, I'm not that fond of donating things. Claudia had always known that she was meant for such fine things. Jamie, on the other hand, had thought that running away from home to sleep in just another bed was really no challenge at all. He, James, would rather sleep in the bathroom floor after all. Claudia then pulled him around to the foot of the bed and told him to read what the card said. Jamie read, "Please do not step on the platform." Claudia knew that he was being difficult on purpose, therefore she read it for him. State bed. Scene of the alleged murder of Amy Robsart, first wife of the Lord Robert Dudley, later Earl of... Jamie couldn't control his smile. He said, "You know, Claude, for a sister in a fuss budget, you're not too bad." Claudia replied, You know, Jamie, for a brother and a cheapskate, you're not too bad. Something happened at precisely that moment. Both Claudia and Jamie tried to explain to me about it, but they couldn't quite. I know what happened, though. I never told them. Having words and explanations for everything is too modern. I especially wouldn't tell Claudia. She has too many explanations already. What happened was they became a team, a family of two. There had been times before they ran away when they had acted like a team, but those were very different from feeling like a team. Becoming a team didn't mean the end of their arguments, but it did mean that the arguments became a part of the adventure, became discussions, not threats. To an outsider, the arguments would appear to be the same because the feeling like a team is something that happens invisibly. You might call it caring. You could even call it love. And it is very rarely, indeed, that it happens to two people at the exact same time, especially a brother and a sister who had always spent more time with activities than they had with each other. They followed their plan. They checked out of the museum and re-entered through a back door. And when the guard at the entrance told them to check their instrument cases, Claudia told him that they were just passing through on their way to meet their mother. The guard let them go, knowing that if they had went very far, some other guard would stop them again. However, they managed to avoid the other guards for the remaining minutes until the bell rang. The bell meant that the museum was closing in 5 minutes. They then entered the booths of the restrooms. They waited in the booths until 5:30 when they felt certain that everyone had gone. Then they came out and met. 5:30 in winter is dark, but nowhere seems as dark as the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The ceilings are so high that they fill up with a lot of darkness. It seemed to Jamie and Claudia that they walked through the miles of corridors. Fortunately, the corridors were wide, and they were spared bumping into things. At last, they came to the Hall of the English Renaissance. Jamie quickly threw herself upon the bed, forgetting that it was only about 6 o'clock, and thinking that he would be so exhausted that he would immediately fall asleep. He didn't. He was hungry. That was one reason he didn't fall asleep immediately. He was uncomfortable, too. So he got up from bed, changed into his pajamas, and got back into bed. He felt a little better. Claudia had already changed into her pajamas. She, too, was hungry, and she, too, was uncomfortable. How could such an elegant and romantic bed smell so musty? She would have liked to have washed everything in a good, strong, sweet-smelling detergent. As Jamie got into bed, he still felt uneasy, and it wasn't because he was worried about being caught. Claudia had planned everything so well that he didn't concern himself about that. The strange way he felt had to do with sleeping in a strange place in which they were sleeping. Claudia felt it too. Jamie lay there thinking. Finally, realization came. "You know, Claude," he whispered, "I didn't brush my teeth." Claudia answered, "Well, Jamie, you can't always brush after every meal." They both laughed very quietly. "Tomorrow," Claudia reassured him, "we'll be even better organized." It was much earlier than her bedtime at home, but still Claudia felt tired. She thought she might have an iron deficiency anemia, tired blood. Perhaps the pressures of everyday stress and strain had gotten her down. Maybe she was lightheaded from hunger. Her brain cells were being robbed of vitally needed oxygen for good growth and yawn.
What's that mean?
Stop. Thank you. She shouldn't have worried. It had been an unusually busy day, a busy and unusual day. So she lay there in great quiet of the museum, next to the warm quiet of her brother, and allowed the soft stillness to settle around them, a comforter of quiet. The silence seeped from their heads to their souls and into their souls. Well, you'd have to see that it seeped to the soles, like the soles of their feet, and then into their souls, like the deep inside of them. They stretched out and relaxed. Shh, we'll talk about bananas when I'm done. I'm almost done. Sorry. They stretched out and relaxed. Instead of oxygen and stress, Claudia thought now of hushed and quiet words. Glide, fur, banana, peace. Even the footsteps of the night watchman added only an accented quarter note to the silence that had become a hum, a lullaby. They lay perfectly still, even long after he passed. Then they whispered good night to each other and fell asleep. They were quiet sleepers, and hidden by the heaviness of the dark, they were easily not discovered. Of course, Saxonburg, the draperies of the bed helped too. And we will stop there. Okay, we will start with chapter 4 tomorrow. Bye.